The other thing that I wanted to talk about, I don't think I need any model boats for, is sort of mental skills on a day like today, honestly, on a regatta like this regatta. So one of the things that's often repeated that's really worth thinking about is control the controllables. So when the race committee is setting some crazy courses and the wind is making the courses crazy and there are big changes in the wind direction and strength, there are a lot of things that are out of your control. And it's easy to get frustrated, angry, and distracted by those big changes. Or they could even be small, but if they affect your mental state, you can start making worse decisions afterwards. So, but if you can differentiate, if you can tell the difference between, something that you have control over and something that you don't have control over, and if you're able to just let go of the fact that you got in trouble, that something really bad happened to you and it wasn't your fault, you can let that go and continue to make the best decisions possible, then you continue to get the most out of your race, out of your position, out of your race course. But what often happens is something bad happens to you. Those start lines are very high risk when there's very favored on one side. The best sailors can get in trouble. So you could get in trouble off the start and then get angry. When you get angry, or when your activation level rises, so maybe you get excited, you get angry, you get frustrated, any of those things that makes you get pumped up, get overhyped, what that rise in activation level tends to do is to narrow your focus. So then you start over focusing on things. Maybe you get a small shift and you immediately tack without thinking of the consequences, and it takes you behind a group of boats, or it makes you sail the short leg of the course first, or gets you into a rule situation, whatever. But when you're over focused on things, or if your over focus causes you to focus on the wrong things, then the problems spiral. So what you need to do when something bad happens to you, especially if it's not your fault, is to take a deep breath and realize that that's not something you had control over, especially if it's in the past. Even if it was really your own mistake, if it's something in the past, you now no longer have control over it. So what is my next best move? So what is the thing that I know how to do, something that's in my control that I can do to make the most out of the bad situation that I'm in. And to be honest, often there's not a lot you can do. But on a crazy day like today, you can't count on the fact that there's nothing else to do. You know, crazy things can happen on crazy days. There can be big reversals. People sailing over a wind line and suddenly gaining 10 boats. That could happen to you randomly, but it's more likely going to happen to the person who is able to broaden their focus and be the first person to notice these weird wind lines. I took a picture of a couple of them. I didn't even take a picture of the biggest wind lines. So just being resourceful that way. Maybe you can, by keeping your focus, get your an overlap on a boat, which then has an overlap on 3 other boats, and suddenly you're ahead of 3 boats, which means you get better clean air, and you can sort of start a new series of good things happening. But this only happens, or it's easier to set yourself up for a good series of events if you're able to immediately release the bad events, the things you didn't have control over. Now focus on what decisions do I have left, and how can I make the most out of them. Then when you're debriefing yourself, when you're saying, how was that race, to yourself or to your coach, to me or to whoever afterwards how you feel about the race. Don't give yourself a hard time if something bad happened to you and you responded to it as best you could. That's all you can do. If nothing bad happens to you and you make all of the best decisions that you know how to make, you're going to do your best. You're actually going to have your best races. So it's sort of a balance of probability. You want to keep on being able to make the best move that you know how to make. Maybe you learn a new move, and but the thing that you can expect of yourself is to do the moves that you do know. And if you can do all of those moves, then you perform to the best of your potential and you start learning. But if you get frustrated, like I said, or the other one, if you give up, then if your activation level goes too low, I'm never gonna, etc., bad self-talk, then you again stop noticing the cues. If your head's down, if your shoulders are rolled over, you're looking down in your boat instead of looking up. So trying not to get depressed and trying not to get angry, to keep your activation level somewhere near the level that works the best for you, somewhere alert, but not crazy. Then you notice things and you learn. So if you're able to learn, that's a good race. If you're able to do all of the things that you already know how to do, if you're able to actually demonstrate the things that you theoretically know how to do, that's a good race. If something horrible happens to you, or a completely unpredicted wind shift comes and you lose a lot from it, it's frustrating, but it's not a bad race if you responded to it as best you could as early as you can. So I just finished doing a little debrief theory session on skewed race courses, where I talked a lot about if the wind is on the right, there are a number of reasons why to go. So the course is skewed, so the starboard tack is long. There's lots of reasons why the wind might come from the right. Well, today we had situations where even though the course was very skewed right, left boats did very well. So if you made the best probability choice and it was wrong, that's okay. If you keep making the best probability choices, by definition, it's going to work out for you in the long run. If you keep making the best probability choices and it doesn't work out for you, you may have misunderstood the situation. Your probabilities are wrong. You're not counting right. So then it's back to the drawing board, learn some theory, but you've identified what the problem is. So there's some mental skills talk that I think today, or GP3 regatta was good for pushing us to think about our mental skills, stay in control of our mental state. I want to add one more thing. I think I was too abstract with, say, do the things you know how to do, or make the moves you know how to make. Bring it back to the drawing board. Are you on close hauled? Are your sail controls set as best you know how to set them? Does your sail look right? Is your posture proper, right? So when obscure, weird things are going wrong that you don't understand, first fix the things you really know how to fix. It doesn't matter that the wind is doing an unpredictable pattern that you've never seen before. Are you going fast? Like, if you are keeping your boat moving, you're gonna probably have more options later on. So that's maybe a more concrete way of thinking of doing the things that you know how to do. Make your boat go fast, sail the lifted tack, look at the wind clouds, collect information, and use only the information that you know how to use. If there's extra information that you don't understand yet, ask your coach, ask an expert, but don't expect too much out of yourself or you'll set yourself up for frustration is kind of what I'm talking about with that.